Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om
Bhagavate
Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam
Narayanam
Narayanam Namaskrityam
Dharanchaiva Narottamam
Dharam
Narancha
Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim
Devim
Saraswati
Saraswati
Vyasam
Vyasam
Tato Jayamudirayat
Tato
Tato
Jaya Mudiraet
Jayamudire
Nashtaprayesu Abhadresu
Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam
Nityam
Bhagavata
Bhagavata
Sevaya
Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke
Bhagavati
Bhagavati
Uttam
Uttam
Shloki
Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhaktir
Bhaktir
Bhavati
Bhavati
Naistiki.
Naistiki.
Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 9, titled The Most Confidential Knowledge, and verse number 11. Avijananti mam mudha
Avajananti
Abhijananti
Mamoda
Mamuda
manusim tanuashritam
Manusintanu
Manusam
Asritam
Tanushitam
param bhavam ajanato
Param Bhavam
Parambhavam
Ajananto
Ajananta
mama bhutameswaram
Mama
Mama
Bhuta
Bhuta Maheshwaram
avajananti mam mudha
Avajananti
Avajananti
Mamoda
Mamuda
manusim tanuashritam
Manusham
Manusam
Tanum
Tanu
Ashrita
Asritam
param bhavam jnananto
Param Bhavam
Parambhavam Ajananto
Ajananto
mama bhutamaheshwaram.
Mama
Mama
Bhuta
Bhuta
Maheshwaram
Maheshwaram
Any Prabhujis or Matajis?
Avajananti Mamuda
Abhijananti
Imam
Mamuda
Manusintanu Asritam
Manusham
Nusim
Tanumashritam
Tanumashritam
Parambhavam Ajananto
Param
Param
Bhavam
Bhavam
Ajananto
Janantu
Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram
Mama
Mama
Bhuta
Bhuta
Maheshwaram
Maheshwaram
अवजानन्ति मां मूढा
Avajananti
Avajananti
Mamuda
Mamuda
मानिशं तनुमाश्रितम्
Manusham
Manusintanu
Tanumashritam
Ashritam
Asritam
परं भावम् अजानन्तो
Param
Parambhavam
Bhavam
Bhavam
Ajananto
Janantu
मम भूतमहेश्वरम्
Mama
Mama
Bhuta
Bhuta
Maheshwaram
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 Abhijananti Mamuda
Avajananti
Avajananti
Mamuda
Mamuda
Manusham Tanumashritam
Manusintanu Asritam
Tanumashritam
Param Bhavam Ajananto
Param
Parambhavam
Bhavam
Ajananto
Janantu
Mam Bhuta Maheshwaram Mama Bhuta
Mama
Maheshwaram
Bhuta Maheshwaram
Maheshwaram. Word by word meaning. Avajananti,
Avajananti
Avajananti
derived.
derived
They write
Mam,
Mam
Mam
me.
me
Me
Mudha,
Muda
Muda
foolish man.
foolish man
Foolish man
Manusim,
Manusham
Manushim
in a human form.
in a
in a
human form
human form
Tanum,
Tanum
Tanu
a body.
a body
a body
Ashritam,
Ashritam
Asritam
assuming.
assuming
assuming
Param,
Param
Param
transcendental.
transcendental
Transcendental
Bhavam,
Bhavam
Bhavam
nature.
nature
Nature
Ajananta,
Ajananta
Ajananta
not knowing.
not
not
knowing
knowing
Mama,
Mama
Mama
my.
my
my
Bhuta,
Bhuta
Bhuta
of everything that be.
of
of
everything that be
everything that be
Maheshwaram,
Maha
Ishwaram,
the supreme proprietor.
the Supreme
the Supreme
Proprietor.
Proprietor.
Translation by His Divine Grace C.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Fools deride me
Fools deride me
when I dissent in the human form.
when I
When
descend
I
in the
descend
human
in the
form.
human form,
They do not know
they
They
do
do
not
not know
know
my transcendental nature
my
my
transcendental nature
transcendental nature
as the supreme Lord of all that be.
as
as the
Supreme
Supreme Lord of
Lord of
all that be.
all that be.
Any Prabhujis or Matajis would like to read? This is a very long purport. We will all will have to read it so that we share Srila Prabhupada's words in our mouth by uttering it. So if anybody would like to read this page, which I'm
From
showing.
the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. The personality of Godhead, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and the annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation, cannot be a human being. Yet there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality, as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the Supreme Lord.
Thank you, bro. Someone else can read this, please.
There are many.
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Prabhu.
go ahead, Prabhuji.
There are many Iswaras, controllers, and one appears greater than another. In the ordinary management of affairs in the material world, we find some official or director, and above him there is a secretary, and above him a minister, and above him a president. Each of them is a controller, but one is controlled by another. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that Krishna is the supreme controller. There are many controllers, undoubtedly, both in the material and spiritual world. But Krishna is the supreme controller, Ishvara Parama Krishna, and his body is Sachitananda, non-material. Material bodies cannot perform the wonderful acts described in previous verses. His body is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Someone else can read this?
Although he is not a common man, the foolish deride him and consider him to be a man. His body is called here Manusham because he is acting just like a man, a friend of Arjuna, Arjuna's, a politician involved in the battle of Kurukshetra. In so many ways, he is acting just like an ordinary man. But actually, his body is Sachidananda Vigraha, eternal bliss and knowledge, absolute. This is confirmed in the Vedic language also. Sachidananda Rupaya Krishnaya. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is the eternal blissful form of knowledge. Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.1. There are other descriptions in the Vedic language also. Tam ekam govindam. You are Govinda, the pleasure of all, the pleasure of the senses and the cows. Sachidananda Vigraham, and your form is transcendental, full of knowledge, bliss, and eternality. Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.38. Despite the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna's body, its full bliss and knowledge, there are so many called scholars and commentators of Bhagavad Gita who deride Krishna as an ordinary man. The scholar may be born an extraordinary man due to his previous good work, but this conception of Sri Krishna is due to poor fund of knowledge. Therefore, he is called Mudha, for only foolish persons consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being.
Thank you, Prabhu. Someone would like to read this page? I'll try. The foolish consider Krishna an ordinary human being because they do not know the confidential activities of the Supreme Lord and his different energies. They do not know that Krishna's body is a symbol of complete knowledge and bliss, that he is the proprietor of everything, that be and that he can award liberation to anyone, because they do not know that Krishna has so many transcendental qualifications, they deride him. Nor do they know the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this material world is a manifestation of his internal energy. He is the master of the material energy, as has been explained in several places. Mamamaya Duratyaya. He claims that the material energy, although very powerful, is under his control, and whoever surrenders unto him can get out of the control of this material energy. If a soul surrendered to Krishna can get out of the influence of the material energy, then how can the Supreme Lord, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the whole cosmic nature, have a material body like us? So, this conception of Krishna is complete foolish. Foolish persons, however, cannot conceive that the personality of Godhead, Krishna, appearing just like an ordinary man, can be the controller of all the atoms and the gigantic manifestation of the universal form. Anyone would like to read this page?
The biggest and the minutest are beyond their conception, so they cannot imagine that a form like that of a human being can simultaneously control the infinite and the minute. Actually, although although he is controlling the infinite and the infinite, he is apart from all this manifestation. It is clearly stated concerning his Yogam Aishwaram, his unconceivable transcendental energy, that he can control the infinite and the finite simultaneously, and that he can remain aloof from them. Although the foolish cannot imagine how Krishna, who appears just like a human being, can control the infinite and the finite. Those who are pure devotees accept this, for they know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they completely surrender unto him and engage in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord.
There are many controversies between the impersonalist and the personalist about the Lord's appearance as a human being. But if we consult Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, the authoritative texts for understanding the science of Krishna, then we can understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not an ordinary man, although he appeared on this earth as an ordinary man. Anybody would like to read this page?
In the
In the
Srimad
Srimad
Bhagavatam, go ahead.
In the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, when the sages headed by the Sonaka inquired about the activities of Krishna, they said, Krutvan kilo karmani saha rameno kesavah ati matyani bhagavan guda kapata manusha. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked he performed many superhuman acts. Bhagavad Gita 1.120. The Lord's appearance as a man bewilders the foolish. No human being could perform the wonderful act that Krishna performed while he was present on this earth. When Krishna appeared before his father and mother, Vasudeva and Devaki, he appeared with four hands. But after the prayers of the parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child. As stated in the Bhagavatam 10.3.46, Babuho Prakrita Sisuhu. He became just like an ordinary child, an ordinary human being. Now, here again, it is indicated that the Lord's appearance as an ordinary human being is one of the features of his transcendental body.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone would like to read this page?
I can read it. In the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, also it is stated that Arjun prayed to see Krishna's form of four hands. Teneva Rupena Chaturbhujena. After revealing this form of Krishna, when petitioned by Arjuna, again assumed his original human-like form, Manusam Rupam. These different features of the Supreme Lord are certainly not those of an ordinary human being. Some of those who deride Krishna and who are infected with the Mayavadi philosophy quote the following verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.29.21 to prove that Krishna is just an ordinary man. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutat bhutatma vasishta sada. The Supreme is present in every living entity. We should better take note of this particular word from the Vaishnava acharyas like Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur instead of following the interpretation of unauthorized persons who deride Krishna. Jiva Goswami, commenting on this verse, says that Krishna, in his plenary expansion as Paramatma, is situated in the moving and the non-moving entities as the super soul. So, any neophyte devotee who simply gives his attention to the uh, Achamurti, the form of Supreme Lord in the temple, and doesn't respect other living entities, is uselessly worshipping the form of the Lord in the temple. There are three kinds of devotees of the Lord, and the neophyte is in the lowest stage.
Yeah, somebody can read this page, Prabhu.
The neophyte devotee gives more attention to the deity in the temple than to other devotees. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur warns that this sort of mentality should be corrected. A devotee should see that because Krishna is present in everyone's heart as Paramatma, everybody is the embodiment of the temple of the Supreme Lord. So, as one offers respect to the temple of the Lord, he should similarly properly respect each and everybody in which the Paramatma dwells. Everyone should therefore be given proper respect and should not be neglected.
There are also many impersonalists who deride temple worship. They say that since God is everywhere, they should why should one restrict himself to temple worship? But if God is everywhere, is he not in temple? Is he not in the temple or in the deity? Although the personalist and the impersonalist will fight with one another perpetually, a perfect devotee in Krishna consciousness knows that although Krishna is a supreme personality, he is all pervading, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Although his personal abode is Golok Vrindavan and he is always staying there, by his different manifestation of energy and his plenary expansion, he is present everywhere in all parts of the material and spiritual creation. Om, let's all chant together. Om
Om
Agyanatimirandasya
Gyativirandasya Jnanam
Jnananjana
Shalataya
Shalataya
Chakshurmilitam
Chakshurumilitam
Yena
Yena
Tamena
Tasmai
Tasmai
Guruve
Sri Gurave
Namaha
Namaha
Sri Chaitanya
Sri Chaitanya
Manovistam
Manobhishtam
Yena
Sthapitam
Yena
Yena
Bhutale
Bhutale
Rupa
Swayam
Kadamani
Rupa
Swayam Rupa
Kadamani
Kadamani
Tadastu Padantikam
Dati
Vande
Vandeham
Swapadantikam
Guru
Vishnugurum
Jaya
Sriyuta
Sri
Padakamalam
Sutakamaham
Guru
Guru
Vaishnavam
Srimvaishavam Sa
Sutakamlam Sri Guru
Srirupam
Vaishnava
Srirupam
Sagrajatam
Rupam
Sagana
Sahagana
Radha
Sagrajatam
Vidam
Radhavindam
Tam
Sahagana
Saradatam
Sadhitam
Sadhitam
Savadutam
Savadutam
Pariyasaitam
Sahadutam
Sri Krishna
Parivesaitam
Chaitanya
Parijasaitam
Krishna
Devam
Chaitanya
Sri
Devam
Radha Krishna
Radha Krishna
Padan
Radha
Padan
Krishna
Sahaganam
Sahagana
Sri
Lalita
Sakala
Sehita
Visakanvitancha
Vitasam Sakanvitancha
Sri Krishna
He
Karuna
Krishna
Karuna
Karma
Sindhu
Sindhu
Dinabandhu
Dinabandho
Jagatpate
Vishakam
Jagatpati
Bhupesha
Gopesha
Radha
Radha
Kanta
Kanta
Gopantana
Namaste
Radha
Namaste
Kantana
Sapta
Sapta
Kancana
Kancana
Radhan
Gaurangi
Gaurangi
Radhe
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 Vrindavaneshwari
Vrindavaneshwari
Vishvano
Sute
Vishakanu
Devi
Sute
Devi
Devi
Pranamami
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 Haripriye
Hari Priye
Panchakalpa
Vanchakalpa Tarubhyacha
Sarubhyasya
Kripa
Kripa Sindhubhya
Sindhubhya
eva cha
Patitanam
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 Pavadebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
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 Namaha
Namah
Jai Shri Krishna
Jai Sri
Chaitanya
Krishna
Prabhu
Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri
Nityananda
Shri
Advaita
Advaita Gadadhara
Gadadhara
Dadara
Sivasadi
Srivasa
Gauri
Sivasadi
Gaura
Gaur
Bhakta Vrinda
Bhakta
Hare
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 Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
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 Rama
Rama,
Hare
Rama Hare
Rama
Hare
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Hare
Rama
Hare,
Hare Hare
Hare
Hare Hare, Hare.
So thank you so much for joining this wonderful Saturday evening Bhakti Vriksha. And today, what a verse to really meditate on this. Avijananti Mam Mudha. So whenever we think about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as you know, we say he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's a person. So when we find the Lord to be a person among us, then we think he is like one like us, and we do not think he is supreme. That is the critical problem of this age. So Krishna is saying, Abhijananti mam mudha. Fools deride me. Mudha means fools. So Abhijananti means deride, means they don't understand me. They never understand that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Manasim tanuashritam. So they think that in this form of body, they think that I'm, embodied. So my body is the same as their body. And then Krishna says, Param Bhava Jananto. That means without knowing the transcendental nature, Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram, they think that I am not. They think that everything to be the supreme proprietor. So Krishna is saying my transcendental nature as a supreme Lord is not understood by many people, and the people who do not understand me, when they do not understand and they deride me when I descend in this, when Krishna descends in this human form in the form of Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, and various different forms as the Makhanchur, they think that they are part of one of them, and they do not know that his transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be, that means he still possesses that transcendental. It's not understandable. And who does that? It is the fools, it is the mudhas who does that. And Srila Prabhupada is giving the example of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, when he started from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and then he was not trying to find out, he was not understanding where he has come from. Then he went from the whorl of the lotus onto the stem, and then he found that he's alone, and then he meditated in the form of the Lord. The Lord came in his heart and explained to him that he is the first person in this world, and then he goes on to write in Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita is one of his first creations, that Ishvara Parama Krishna. There are many Ishwaras, as Srila Prabhupada is saying. You know, you are, if you're holding a department, you are kind of a Ishwara in that department. But there is a Parama Ishwara. There is somebody who is Parama, who is the topmost, for whom there is no more Ishvara. Because if as Srila Prabhupada is saying, if you have a department, you have a team, there is always a manager. The manager will have another manager. The manager will probably have a director who is actually a manager. And then the director will have some senior director or vice president. Then there will be president. Then there will be CTO or CIO, and then there will be a CEO. So there is always a manager, and then the CEOs, they report to the Wall Street, and they will have a manager. And likewise, everybody has a manager except one person, who is the Parama person, who is the Ishvara Parama Krishna. So he is the Parama Ishvara in this context, as in this page. um, Brahmaji is explaining that of all the Ishwaras, he is the Parama Ishvara. Who is the Parameshwara? Govindam. Govindam Adi Purusha, he says. Adi means he is the primeval, is the farthest. There is no one who is older than him. So he is Adi, and he is Purusha. He is a person. So that's why when people who are Nirakarvadis, they are impersonalists, then they do not understand what Brahmaji is saying here. He is a Purusha, he is a person. Everything in our context is a person. Even the Purusha avatars, the Karnadaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Kiradaksha Vishnu, and so many persons who have spread the holy name and the pride of the Lord all around the world. They are persons. So who thinks that this person is not supreme? The and these persons are called mudhas, the fools, which Krishna is saying, who do not have this knowledge or the education to really understand who the supreme person is. So because of our lack of understanding, we do not understand who the supreme is. Once you up your understanding through the right association, through the right guru, through the right sastra, then you know that who the supreme personality is. So it is the lack of education, it is the lack of transcendental knowledge. It's because of that we tend to believe Krishna is one and the common person. It is not just us. There are many people. We'll go over some of the examples who cannot just comprehend the fact that the supreme personality of Godhead is is Krishna, and they have given them trouble in all the ages. And in Kali, in the age of Kali, when people listen to human beings and human beings being envious, in the beginning of chapter 9, Krishna says to Arjuna, because you are not envious, I'm going to tell this confidential knowledge to you. So, in this chapter 9, Krishna is really revealing himself in a very confidential manner by telling something very, very unique things. In the beginning, he says, because you do not envy me, Arjuna, I'm going to reveal this. So when does Krishna reveal himself? To the person who is non-envious. And this non-enviousness is a very difficult thing to get rid of. In this world, there is so much of competition. Everybody wants to stick, and they want to really over deride somebody else. That's why this word deride in this verse is very important. Unless they deride, they cannot really go up. And that is the reason why it is this Kali's potency to deride. That's why people cannot want to, even if they may recognize Krishna as the supreme personality of God with mystic powers, they will never understand. They will never understand and tell others that Krishna is the supreme personality of God. They'll keep it to themselves. They will never reveal it, because this is the envious age. This is the age of envy. And because of this, they will proclaim themselves to be the supreme. That's why you find so many lords, walking around. They have so many, they will be, sitting as if they're gods, and they will have devotees treating them like gods, because they do not want to tell the truth. If they tell the truth, they will cease to be prayed, and they will cease to be offered the way they are offered. So, and that's why Krishna is emphatic in saying that fools don't recognize me. And we, as practicing Krishna conscious devotees, we are making an attempt to understand the science of Krishna, as Srila Prabhupada is putting it here. See, when Krishna appeared, Krishna in front of Vasudeva and Devaki, Srila Prabhupada is saying, and also it happened that Krishna appeared as a 400 person. And when Vasudeva and Devaki, they prayed, then Krishna came back to the normal two-handed form like a kid. So, so Krishna is revealing in various different ways, but by virtue of our illusory energy of the Lord, of the lack of knowledge at the right point in time, we never understand him the way he should be understood. And there are many references, and people tap onto various different verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, and they try to decipher that in a very wrong way, in a very impersonal way, and that is not correct, as Srila Prabhupada is saying. And that is where our teachings of Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is very, very important. And 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 that is why people understand or hear kathas of Krishna stealing butter, or troubling the gopis, they think they are like one of us, because Krishna is so personal. Uh, that's why they think that they're one of us. That's why even if they want to, but the aspect of envy doesn't really let them proclaim that there is a supreme personality. His name is Krishna. He is the creator. He has created this entire world, and from him the Param Purna Purushottam Krishna, different Purusha avatars are emanated, and from there Brahma has come, and Brahma has really created all the four Kumaras and Rudra and Manu and Muni, and from there the progenitors of this entire world got created. People do not just understand because of that. So, so even during Krishna's time, Shishupal was always giving trouble to Krishna. Krishna listened to Shishupal. He was committing mistakes. Shishupal was committing mistakes. Krishna was receiving. Even at that time, even in the age of Dwapar Yuga, Shishupal was giving trouble. And finally, Shishupal was put to rest by Krishna, because so that's the reason why you may be doing a wrong thing, something bad is not happening to you. That doesn't mean no one is taking a note of it. Shishupal was committing a mistake. Krishna was counting. Shishupal was committing a mistake. Shishupal was counting. He did cross the half century mark. Krishna was counting. And the time Shishupal hit a century of mistakes, when the count of his wrongs went to century. So when Shishupal hit century, Krishna bowled him out. He was killed by Krishna. So just because you do a bad thing, bad things doesn't happen to you. Don't think it is not going to happen. So that's the reason why consciousness is very, very important, and that we recognize from Rama. He was making mistake, he was becoming strong. Impersonalist feeling, he was doing the right thing by by going against Krishna. That's not how a Krishna conscious person like you and me should look at it. We should cease to do the wrong things, because a time will come when our pious credits will be emptied and our negative credits go up. A time will come, we will be punished. And so it was Shishupal. So and and there was another person, Pondraka Vasudev. He appeared like Krishna. He came up with multiple hands, multiple heads appearing like Krishna. But so he was envious of Krishna. They He couldn't understand who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. And this is where Krishna says in this confidential chapter, that where the confidential knowledge is revealed, that he is a mudha in this context. And 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 Lord Ram, when he went, he created the the bridge in 3 days. I mean, that bridge, thinking of a person constructing a bridge in 3 days, in any sane mindset, you will think that this is a supreme, this is not one of the seven wonders, this is probably the top wonder of the world. By trying to come up with a bridge, if you have gone to that tip of Rameshwaram, I have gone by Jagannath's mercy, and from there it is it's very far. Sri Lanka is very far, it's more than 20 kilometers, and that bridge was done in 3 days. Still, Ravana couldn't understand. Ravana couldn't, just kept on treating him like a Vanvasi. He thought that this is a person. And a person, if he had slightest of the knowledge, you would recognize, you would ask yourself, if he is truly a Vanvasi, he's just a ordinary person, how could he complete the bridge in 3 days? That should trigger that intelligence. Because Ravana was a very bright person. He was a Brahmana. He used to utter hymns in very potent, beautiful way. But the problem is, at that point in time, his knowledge was covered with ignorance. He didn't have the transcendental knowledge. And that is why he is a mudha in this context. Krishna Balaram, they defeated the Akshoni Sena of Jarasandha, 23 Akshoni Sena of Jarasandha. Huge army, unthinkable. They're so huge. And these Krishna Balaram kids, these two brothers, and like we see Jagannath Baldev, like two brothers, two siblings, they were just defeating these huge armory of Jarasandha, just like that. Still, people do not believe that Krishna is supreme. They were thinking that he is one ordinary person. When he lifted the pinky in his for 7 days, nobody can think of lifting a slightly bigger, heavy thing. He lifted it in his left hand pinky, and the people had so surrendered, they didn't think that he will shake it up and the Govardhan is going to fall down and they will get crushed under Govardhan. They stayed under the mountain which was raised by Krishna in the left pinky for 7 days. Now, when Krishna was a very little child, was a little child. Still, many people didn't understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, when Lord Ramji used to go walk through the forest, there used to be these rishis who, seeing Lord Ram, seeing the wonderful figure of Ram, the beauty of Ram, would like to embrace Ram, because they very much know that whatever they are trying to attain through meditation or whatever sacrifice practices they're doing, the attainment is right in front of them. So they would love to hear the figure of Ramji. They used to come to love him, and to embrace them. They are dying to really interact with Ramji. So Ramji's love in the form of his expression of association with Shabari, unthinkable. Shabari is giving Jhuta bear, and Ramji is just taking it without any issue. But at the same time, there is another person who is defying him after he has gone across the ocean, and Ramji was like a gallant warrior. You see the contrast right there? And his love for Lakshman, and his love for Bharat, and his love for Hanuman. So contrasting. So it is not easy to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but at the same time, it is very easy to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this age of Kali, Lord has given his name to have a relationship with him. You call out the name of the Lord will be present in and dancing in the lips of the people who chant. And that's why in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Krishna says, Mama Vangsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Manasasthanindriya Ani Prakriti Sthani Karsati. That means all the living entities in this conditioned world are my external fragments. So all of us are part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is saying it right here. Due to conditioned life, due to our illusory covering, we are struggling. They're struggling very hard with six senses, which includes the mind. And the mind is confusing all of us, and we cease to accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna, and we think there is someone else who is going to take care. And that's why we will have coming chapters, coming verses. Krishna says, Pitaham asya jagato mata dhata pitamaha vedyam pari pavitram omkara Rik Sama Yajur Evacha. So we'll just stick to the first line, which is very contextual to our discussion today. Pitaham Asya Jagato Mata Dhata Pitama. Sometimes we think our current parents are very dear to us. They should be dear to us. Krishna is basically teaching it. But Krishna is saying he is the father of the universe, the mother of the universe, and also the grandfather of all of us. So he is even actually more closer to us. When you can talk about father and mother and grandfather and grandmother, don't you think our grandfather, grandmother were a little bit closer to us because they are not very strict? They gave us the leisure in trying to go about doing things. So here Krishna is saying he is the father, he is the mother, and he is our grandfather as well. So with that kind of thought process, how can he not be dear to us? If we have truly understood the scriptures and scriptural references. And that is why we have to have this kind of discussion more and more often. Otherwise, we will never be recognizing who the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that context of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which Srila Prabhupada in this purport is saying, the science of Krishna will become very difficult for us to understand. And we will slowly become fools in long run. Because Krishna, through these verses, is reinforcing his dearness to us, which we think in this age of illusory energy, we think sometimes our parents are very dear to us. They are, they should be. Krishna is teaching us. But there is someone who is more dear, who is beyond the parents, who has been dear to us even when beyond the relationship of parents, not just 50 years, 60 years, 100 years, since hundreds and millions of years, he was the creator. So how could he not be dear to us? And in spite of so many references, we still do not understand. And that is why if someone wants to recognize who Mudha is, who Fool is, then we should all discuss about this chapter. A person who doesn't understand his origin, from where he came from, and what is the relationship between the origin and where he came from, is very foolish, because that is testing his elementary skills of his origin. And that is why Krishna is saying, Mudha. So with that, I would like to open up for some your comments, corrections, reflections. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Any comments? Anything you want to add? I know the holidays are coming, so we may be having less attendance because of uh, people may be on holiday. And we have Gita Jayanti coming up, which is when Gita was spoken for the first time in the Battle of Kurukshetra uh, in the Dwapara Yuga, uh, and uh, and it's this Tuesday when we'll have the Gita Jagya in our temple, and tomorrow we have a lot of Gita related programming around Gita Jeopardy, where there are some wonderful lineup of programs. It's very exciting to understand Bhagavad Gita through the eyes of quiz masters, because those are little things which helps us understand the Bhagavad Gita science of Krishna or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there are so many programs lined up which will help us tomorrow. We have eloquent speakers speaking on the glories of Bhagavad Gita. So this verse is such a verse. A person who derides Krishna after so many varieties of pastime exhibition is nothing but a fool. And if you have any comments, please open up, unmute yourself and speak. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to Nima Jagannath Prabhu. Prabhuji, can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so one point only, Prabhuji, very well explained, as always. One point which I want to, from a different perspective, is that, Prabhuji, the moment we see Krishna deity as a idol or a statue, uh, and at the same time visit the temple, read Bhagavad Gita, there is no use, because we should have personalization, we should have a personal relation with the deities, Prabhuji.
Mhm.
So, and this is, I thought that this was related to our today's verse, as unless we have that personal relationship with the deities, um, it is outwardly it appears as it is appears to others only. Only to a devotee, Krishna is not a statue or idol, but it is a personal relation. It is a form of a personal relation, and we are lucky to have Krishna. Somebody didn't just didn't paint the picture of a Krishna out of his mind, right? It has come from a realizations of our whoever drew the first picture or whoever made the first statue, because they have a personal relationship with him. We may be personal from a philosophy point of view. Philosophically, we may say, oh, we don't believe in impersonalism, but the actual personalism is with when we relate ourselves with the statue, then with the deity, then we start understanding the relation, and like there is a reciprocation, Prabhuji. I want to tell that unless we have that reciprocation, we are considering somewhere in our consciousness, we are considering Krishna as impersonal only. So that is why Prabhupada insisted the deity worship. Though in other places he always, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur all told that we are not in rituals, but we are more into Nam Sankirtan, right? We are not into rituals. And even when Prabhupada gave an example that when they were installing the deities of Krishna Balram Mandir. There were Vedic rituals for the local Brahmins but it seems ISKCON and Prabhupada's devotees, they were still having Nam Sankirtan all the time throughout the deity installation because we have a personal relationship with the God. We are not we don't go by the rules of the Vedic literature. Of course, we follow, but they are not our driving factors for our bhakti. So that's the point. What the gist of what I wanted to tell was that we should have a personal relation with the deity, that we can talk to him, we reciprocate to him, and he talks us back. So of course we should have, as you have rightly told, we should have bhakti. That is what bhakti means, that we try to have a relationship with him.
Right. So very nicely put, Prabhuji. So we discussed why people do not think Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they are fools who do not consider that. But in order to really prolong that relationship, as Bhakti Ratnakar Prabhu mentioned, that is important because as you can see in this page which I'm sharing, Srila Prabhupada says that, okay, you rely that Krishna is a person and he is the supreme person. But if you do not build a relationship, that theory will not turn to practicality, which is what Prabhuji is referring to. And also, in the second para, Srila Prabhupada is speaking the other way. So what that means, what Prabhuji is saying is, in order for us to build that relationship so that it stays with us and we do not get defocused or lack of focus when because we are interacting with so many people, we're hearing, reading this, that, sometimes our sadhana may go down. But if we have that element of relationship with, say, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, or Sri Sri Radha, Sam Sundar, or Gaur Nitai, then that love or the recognition that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it will stick to our mind. But at the same time, in the second para, Prabhupada is saying, as you can see, is if you only see Lord in the temple and anybody else, you do not treat them well because Krishna is present in the hearts of everybody, then you are not doing the justice of this Krishna conscious movement. So that's why we have three kinds of people. The first kind, the Kanishta Adhikari, are the people who see Lord in the temple. Madhyama Adhikari sees Lord in the temple and in devotees. And the Uttama Adhikari are the ones who sees the Lord everywhere, irrespective of the temple. But we are not at that stage. So we have to build that process from Kanishta to Madhyama to Uttama by trying to build that element of relationship of what is Lord Shamsundar wearing today, what is Jagannath Baldev wearing today, what is Gaurnitai eating today, so that we are enthused in his activity. Then we mingle with Krishna's devotees, like how we're mingling right now electronically with Prajapati Prabhu in India, and we are, in a different area. Then, with love, it will transcend, and we'll start doing some activity here and there, and then we see Lord everywhere. So, as you can see in these two paragraphs, deity worship is very important in our lives because it kind of repositions that theory into practicality. And then we build on it, we associate, because this sadhana is not an end game. More you sharpen, more love you are going to get. And it's going to get better and better and better. As you can see, sometimes you see a movie, as the movie is actually starting, you're ending, you're finished 1 hour, it's becoming intriguing. You cannot get out of the movie, because this process of Krishna consciousness is exactly like that. As you get deeper and deeper, it becomes more tastier and tastier. So deity worship is what is mentioned in the first paragraph. But at the same time, as we grow in our sadhana, we will see Krishna. We will start to see Krishna elsewhere as well, not just in temple or in deity worship, which is exactly what this page is. And Prabhuji is talking about this. Um, about this. So we should see Krishna everywhere, but it will not start like that. So start having deity worship, which is a method of sadhana for all of us. And then we start liking, then we do devotional service. And this is just a this will go on and on, and this is a good discussion we're having right now, which illustrates the importance of deity worship. However, there is something which also Prabhuji said. See, rituals for the sake of doing rituals is not enough, is not good enough. So you'll start loving the deity, you'll do it, but you can go slow on the rituals part. Rituals have benefits, but we shouldn't go too much into rituals. Doing our basic uh, activities as proposed by our Guru Sadhu Shastra is enough, because there are because if you go too much into rituals, then we are not in the karma yoga platform. It tends to become more karma kanda. So there are some other uh, challenges in knowledge acquisition. We become a victim in enjoying the outcome of these sacrifices. So, so thank you, Prabhuji, for sharing the aspect of deity worship in our sadhana, which is exactly a practical implementation of what is mentioned in this verse.
One point, Prabhuji, when we start associating with the deities, Prabhuji, there is a relationship between us, whether we believe or not, whether we have faith or not. There is a relation. Krishna is always is indirectly, at least, is relating to us. But the moment we try to associate with him, when we say that, oh, Krishna must be hungry, or Krishna, we should dress Krishna nicely, we are unraveling the relationship which we are trying to find, that hidden relationship. I won't say hidden relationship. In engineering we call as dotted line, right? We have a dotted line relationship, but the moment we start doing the bhakti, we start seeing the actual line, actual relationship with him.
Yeah.
And that's where we enjoy the bliss, comes from that relationship only, Prabhuji, where because we start talking, he starts talking to us.
Yes.
Otherwise we are only going by the knowledge, right?
Yeah.
That's what the purports say, that when the moment we start seeing the relationship with Krishna, he guides us internally, then he takes over. Until that time he doesn't take over, means he's just doing one part, but a two-way communication gets established. That's the essence I want to tell, that unless we start having a relationship, we will not have the two-way communication.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Earlier we
Definitely.
have only one-way communication, that is Krishna is taking care of us, but we are not cognizant of that.
Right.
The moment we have that relationship, we become cognizant of that relationship, and we cherish that relationship, and we try to distribute that love of Godhead to others also.
Yeah.
It is not that you are only relishing that, you want to distribute that what you are relishing to others, like how we distribute prasadam, like that we distribute the love of Godhead.
Yes. Yes. So that reciprocation part, the two-way communication part is very relevant, and that is just an application of these verses concepts. First, you recognize him, then you get into deity worship, then you serve the deities, then you build a relationship, and then it becomes reciprocative, and then you get bliss from bhakti. And there is more to it, but definitely in the context of this verse, deity worship, as mentioned in this page, is very relevant. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have a small confusion. So when Lord Ram, nothing but Krishna itself, right? He's the supreme personality God, right? So when Lord Ravana went kidnapped Sita Devi, right? So he as a Paramatma, he's sitting everyone's heart, so he knows like who kidnapped, right? But why like then they were doing Leela, Prabhuji, that they were searching Sita Mataji like throughout the jungle, and then he knows like who kidnapped Krishna, who kidnapped Sita, right? Then whether they're doing Leela, so I'm not understanding that part
Yes,
actually.
so you're right. You're answering your question also. So whenever he comes in the form of a human being, right? So he has to exhibit those qualities as a human being, as a Maryada Purushottam, as a brother, as an elder brother, as a husband who takes care of his wife, and then he goes searching for it, and then he identifies, then he gets into a relationship with the monkeys and bears, and then he plans with their help staying without his wife. So if he would end up identifying where Sita is and immediately get it, because he is the supreme, as you rightly said, and he exactly know, he could have just done it right then and there. But the thing is, then the exhibition of the Leelas or the pastime, as you mentioned, in order to really inspire all of us, many yugas later, wouldn't have happened. So whenever Lord comes, he comes with a specific purpose. Yadahi dahi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharat. So he comes with a specific purpose when there is a degradation, and he has a way to deal with it. He has a way to. So if see, he is the most powerful mystic, and he is Param Purusha. So he has come here with a reason, and he has to exhibit his qualities under the boundaries of a human being, as a young prince who is in search. So staying within the confines, even when finally, when Mother Sita comes back, then he was a Maryada Purushottam, and he heard some discussion, some prajalpa among his kings in his kingdom. Some people, some citizens raised it, but then he took a action conforming to that Maryada Purushottam angle. So he comes with a specific purpose to exhibit his Leela. And that specific purpose is exactly why he is delivering his pastime for our benefit, as to what we can inspire ourselves from thousands of years later. So he is coming here to explain to his devotees that I do this because of this reasons. And whenever we hear the reasons from the mouth of a sannyasi or a sadhu who have read it and who have meditated in the forms of the Lord, it gives nectar to us. So, because to exhibit Leela, to cut short, is why he comes, and beautifully he keeps us glued to his pastimes year and year later for our bliss. Okay, bro?
Also, Prabhuji, to the Niranjan Prabhu's, he's not just doing, adding to your points, Prabhuji, your points are exact. He's not just doing a role play in the Leela, he's not just doing a role play, Prabhuji, he's also experiencing the emotions.
Hmm.
Classic examples are Lord Ramchandra really felt the separation. Mother Sita felt
Yes.
the separation. They like, as you rightly said, for us to recognize that, for us to get the feeling of that, they also went through. It's not that they're supreme personality of Godheads and they were just acting up. No, they were not acting up. They were having those emotions of separation and anxiety and everything. Like in the, for example, in the when Varaha avatar, when he was trying to lift the Mother Earth from the deep ocean, um, and Hiranyaksha was trying to chastise him with wrong words. He felt pain, like Varahasamul did feel pain. It is in Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhuji, in 3:18, 5 and 6 verses. They felt the pain. He felt the pain. He not only exhibited, he felt the pain of those harsh words and the chastising words. And similarly, Lord Rama felt the pain of separation, felt the pain of the hardships in a environment from a royal princely order to a ascetic. He has gone through those pains and experienced in his body. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu experienced the pain of separation, like Radharani, how she felt separation from Krishna. They all exhibited and they went through that, Prabhu. It is not just for showing a leela that they did that. It is a leela, but just they didn't act. They had really what we call role play. They have put the character into their role and they experienced that.
Yes. Yes. So in all these pastimes, so Leela is not just, they are mystic and they choose to sort of exhibit with all his control. In whether it's Chaitanya Leela or Ram Leela or Baraha Leela, there has been numerous indication of how Lord felt the issue. See, he is Sachitanand. That doesn't mean he is always a happy character in that context. So he has emotions. That's why in Krishna consciousness, everything is a person. So a person has emotion, has feelings, has separation, anxieties. And whenever, if they do not exhibit in that role, then it will not be prudent for us devotees to understand that. Because by itself, he being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we cannot even understand that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Forget about these, activities he is doing. Because first and foremost, he being Supreme Personality of God, people are not accepting him. Then, once we start accepting, we have to recognize that they cry, they sweat, and their valor in terms of how they fight was just second to none in terms of how this Ram and Lakshman ji used to fight. They're like top-notch warrior heroes, and the and in seeing them in action, we draw inspiration. So the feelings are there, but behind the scene, it is just not acting. It is a full feeling or full expression of that character into the personality. Okay, bro?
When Lord Ramchandra was really tired fighting Ravana, then Agastya Muni came and told about Aditya Hrudayam, right? So it actually, if we look back, Lord Rama didn't need any Aditya Hrudayam. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. He could have ended the feud in day before even Sita Devi Mata is getting kidnapped. He could have done all of that, but no, he did his role play completely so that it becomes a case study for us for future generations, and we know how to react if situations come like that. So it's for our benefit. They have gone through the pain of all of this.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhuji. Anything else? Okay. So if there is no other question, we will end here. We want to pay obeisances in the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas by saying Vancha kalpataru vyasya
Kalpataruvyasya Krupasindhu Bheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Nama
Vaishnava ki
Jai.
Bhagavad Gita ki
Jagannath Prabhu ki
Srila
jai. Thanks.